Welcome to the 2016 Washington Redskins off-season forum. I, of course, am your host, Louis T.
Gotta bear with me, man. Y'all know I'm not a tech savvy guy. This is my first time doing this live thing. So can y'all hear me out there? I got this echo going.
This is my first time doing
God, this is killing me.
So can y'all hear me out there? Y'all know I got this echo going. This is my first time doing live thing. Killing me. So
All right, we're going to try this again. Can you guys hear me? Try to get all my devices set up. Let me see if I can get everything kind of synced and linked up. That way I can interact with you guys and get everything kind of squared away. All right, I want to get my tablet running because I want to see if you guys post anything on YouTube. I'm going to have my Twitter open as well. So by all means, fire away. If you got any comments, questions, next time I'm going to be able to get you guys in, actually get you in with a link. I don't know what I'm doing right now, so I can't actually do that, but let me pull up my Twitter as well. If you want to comment, if you want to leave a comment and we discuss that comment on the show, if you're on Twitter, hashtag Skins Forum on Twitter. Okay, good. I appreciate that, Russ. Yeah, I had a killer echo the first time. All right. All right, cool. All right, so I got the YouTube up. I see you guys commenting there. I'm gonna get the Twitter up here in a second, and then we're gonna jump into this thing, man. A lot to discuss, so I definitely want to get into that. I want to make sure that we're all interacting, though. I want you guys commenting, and I want to have conversations with you guys because this is more about you guys than it is about me. So let's go ahead and jump into this thing, man. This is a big off season. And again, if you want to comment and you want to converse and you've got something to say, please, by all means, say it. Use the hashtag SkinsForum if you're on Twitter, and also on my Facebook page, same thing. Again, I'll get all the messages either through my phone or through my tablet that I have over here. So let's jump into this 2016 Washington Redskins offseason form. The big hot topic, of course, is the Kirk Cousins contractual situation. And before we get into that, this is a huge offseason for the Redskins, and you got to bear with me. Got a sore throat. Been battling through it all week, but time stops for no man, so let's keep going. The reason why this offseason is so big is because do you realize that the Redskins haven't had back-to-back winning seasons in ages? The last time the Redskins had back-to-back winning seasons, when they went to the postseason, you got to go all the way back to Gibbs 1.0. We're talking the 91 and 92 season. The 91 season, of course, 14-2, Redskins win the Super Bowl. The next year was Gibbs' final year in 92. They won 9 games, went 9-7, made the playoffs, lost, and Gibbs retired. Since then, let's look at the last 5 postseason appearances for the Redskins. You got to go back to 1999. Redskins won the division 10-6. That was a team that we all thought could make it to the Super Bowl. They ended up losing to Tampa Bay in the divisional round. The next year, that was the 2000 Skins. That's when Dan Snyder went out and tried to buy every free agent: Deion Sanders, Bruce Smith, Mark Carrier. Redskins start the season off well. They end up finishing up 8-8, missed the postseason. You go to 05, Joe Gibbs comes back. The Redskins win 10 games, go 10-6. Late season run, as always, with Gibbs 2.0. Go on the late season run. Redskins win 10 games, get in the playoffs. Win our last playoff win against Tampa Bay on the road. Lose to Seattle the next week. The next season, 06, 5-11, last place. 07, Redskins make it back, another late season run, this time with Todd Collins. Remember, Sean Taylor senselessly murdered. Redskins go on a run with Todd Collins at quarterback. Lose in the wild card weekend to the Seattle Seahawks. Yet again, the next season, Redskins Joe Gibbs retires for the second time. You get Jim Zorn in there. We all know how that whole tenure went. But he started out that season hot. If you remember, Redskins were 6-2 that year. They get trounced on Monday Night Football by the Steelers, and really they lose to the Rams when they were 6-1. Season was never the same. They end up 8-8 that season, and all hell broke loose. You got Vinny Serrato running the organization into the ground. We know how that whole situation went. You fast forward to 2012, Robert Griffin III, new era. We feel good about it. Redskins go on an improbable 7-game winning streak after starting the season 3-6. You turn around and you go to the playoffs. Robert hurts himself in the Seattle game, and the rest is history there. Mike Shanahan, Robert Griffin III have a huge falling out the next year. 3-13, Shanahan's out. Jay Gruden in, and that's where we find ourselves now. 9-7 in year 2 of Jay Gruden. What are we going to do for an encore? We have not been able to follow up our postseasons with a following successful season. And I think that's the biggest thing that we need to be looking forward to if we're Redskins fans is, can we follow up a successful season with another successful season? That's something we've struggled with. And I'm going to give you one more little tidbit. And I think I've got some messages here. See what you guys are talking about. Okay. My man Russ asks, will AM go? Where will AM go? Hard to really say. Thinking about it, with Alfred Morris, you know what? I'm going to save that one, Russ. We're going to come back to that. We'll come back to Russ, to that question, because I'm going to tackle that one when we get to the free agency talk. And so let's start with Kirk Cousins. I think that's the biggest issue right now. And, it's funny because we got a chance to do something no one's been able to do in this division since the Eagles did it back in 03, 04. win the division in back-to-back seasons. That's, to me, an amazing feat that no one in the NFC East has won this division in back-to-back years since the Eagles did in 2003 and then again in 2004. Since then, it's been a different division winner every single year. And we have a chance to do something big this season, and it's going to take a number of things to happen, one of which having Kirk Cousins play the way that he played last year. And there are a lot of people out there that still believe he's not the guy. And I want some of you guys' opinions out there as far as Kirk Cousins is concerned. How do you feel about this Kirk Cousins contractual situation? Do you think that he deserves a long-term deal? Do you think that you're happy that he's getting the franchise tag and the Redskins are kind of taking a wait-and-see approach? Do you even believe that Kirk is the guy for the job? How do you feel about Kirk Cousins? I'll give you my sentiment. I want to see what you guys feel out there before I jump into the way that I feel about this. And you guys are already just chiming in with a million questions. Keep them coming. How's the audio? Is the audio breaking up? Can you guys hear me? Good out there? Let's see if I can get you guys. Shucks. Let's get this tablet on. Yeah, I'm trying to turn. Jay Wu told me I need to turn on my chat. I tried to turn it on, man. I just I messed with it. It told me it was it told me that I had it on, but it was saying it was disabled. So that's something I have to play with the next time, I guess, because it's telling me that it's right here, but it keeps telling me that this feature is disabled. So Mr. DCB 215 says Kirk Cousins is a good, serviceable quarterback. He reminds him a lot of Jake Delhomme. And Jake Delhomme went to a Super Bowl, man. So, I mean, Jake Delhomme to me was more of a risk taker, more so than Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is a little bit more cerebral, and he's a guy that I think doesn't take as many chances as Jake Delhomme does, or did, I should say. But Jake Delhomme went to a Super Bowl, man. So if you tell me Kirk Cousins is going to take the Redskins to a Super Bowl, and we got a shot, sign me up. Sign me up. Jay Moon wants to know, where do we need to upgrade our offense? You know what? That's the question, too, that we're going to get into. And I think that there are a number of areas that we need to get to. And I got to say, since everybody wants to ask questions based off of, you know, what the Redskins are going to do in the offseason, let's jump into that. So Dom Espino wants to know, is it time for Ryan Grant to replace Pierre Garçon? That's another interesting question. So Pierre is due $10.2 million this season, third highest salary going into the 2016 league year. I think the Redskins, if they can, will try to negotiate with him, renegotiate his contract. I don't know if Pierre Garçon is going to be willing to do that. Last year he wasn't willing to do that. So I don't see him being willing to do that again. But Dom, I don't know about you, and I'll ask you guys, do y'all have any confidence in Ryan Grant? Because I don't have any confidence in Ryan Grant and his ability to come in and stay on his feet, not fall down and trip over his own feet all the time, and be a consistent receiver. I just don't see that from Ryan Grant. I don't get that sense. And so I just don't know if I trust Ryan Grant in the offense at all. And so I don't think I can see him doing that. So Russ asked earlier about AM, and I want to jump into a couple of topics, and I want to do this in an orderly fashion. So I'm going to run down a couple of items that I have. Should the Redskins, and these are all questions that I want us to discuss at the same time. We'll jump into all of you guys' rapid fire questions that you have. But let's do this first. Should the Redskins, and there are a number, you know what? How about this? Because you guys are asking all of these questions, we'll jump into the Redskins and free agency because I think that's what everybody wants to talk about the most, and I'm down for that. So I got a list of all the free agents in the league right here, and I look at the Redskins. We got 11 free agents, and I want to run through the Redskins free agents quickly. I feel like 6 of the Redskins free agents, of the 11, 6 of them won't be back. All right, so Colt McCoy is one of the free agents at the quarterback position. Pierre Thomas, Redskins signed him late in the year at the running back position. Don't think he'll be back. He was an aging veteran. Redskins picked him up. I thought he had a good run with us, but he didn't fit what Scott McClone likes to do as the general manager. He's an older running back. I think they like to go younger there. Logan Paulson coming off of the injury. Hard to say what the Redskins will do with him. We need a blocking tight end, and I would welcome the lumberjack back into the fold, so we'll see what happens with him. Josh Rodriguez, I think he's done in Washington, had a solid run, never really lived up to the hype of the third-round selection, and so I think his time in Washington is done, and so I don't think he'll be back. You also look at another guy that the Redskins have as a free agent, Junior Galette. We're going to talk a lot about Junior Galette here on this program, and so let me get this Twitter feed going. You guys are starting to hit me up on Twitter. I need to be able to see what's going on Twitter. So get this to where it won't turn off. Let's see. No. All right. So now let's get back to business. All right. So on the defensive line, we've got Frank Pierce. Don't think he'll be back. Terrence Knighton. He's an interesting case. I don't think he'll be back either, which is he's a little disappointed by that. If you've been hearing him talk to the media, he's not happy about not being back. So I don't think he'll be back either. Don't think he was as productive as the Redskins would have liked him to be. Will Compton is a free agent. Mason Foster is a free agent. And JB asked, everyone thinks our inside linebacker situation is the worst in the NFL. Totally disagree. Your thoughts, Luke. Skins form. We're going to jump into that. Keenan Robinson is a free agent. So I just named of the 4 inside linebackers that saw a lot of the field in 2015. 3 of the 4 are free agents this year for the Redskins. So that's a big position of need, especially if the Redskins don't address it by re-signing their own guys. Will Blackman, cornerback, a guy that we got in the middle of the season, he's also a free agent. I don't expect him to be back. Again, he's an aging veteran. That's not the way that Scott McClone likes to do business. And I think that Will Blackman will not be back in Washington. So those are the 11 free agents. Of the 11 that I named, and of course, Alfred Morris, too. I don't want to forget AM at the running back position. And I'm sad to say I don't think he's going to be back, guys. And I think you pretty much feel the same way. And you've heard Bruce Allen talk and Scott McClone, and they all sound like they're going to allow Alfred to go out there and test free agency. And if nothing happens, and they may welcome him back. That's the sentiment I get as far as Alfred is concerned. So I've got a couple of guys that I feel like the Redskins can target in free agency. And I'm going to answer JB real quick. No, our inside linebacker position is not that bad. And I think Mason Foster is going to be back. I think Will Compton is going to be back. Now, are those guys going to be starters? That's hard to say. I just don't know if the Redskins are confident in those guys being starters from day one. I think that Mason Foster is a good guy to have, as we saw last year, in reserve. I don't necessarily know if the Redskins are confident in him being able to start and be as productive as they would like him to be. Will Compton, to me, is a guy that they really like. I think he's extremely smart, and I thought he did a great job of getting guys lined up last season. I think they liked the fact that he was able to come in and put guys in the right positions. But I think they're looking for a bit more punch, a little bit more athleticism. I know that's what I'm looking for. I want our defense to be way more athletic. The guy that is a free agent that I really would love the Redskins to target is Danny Trevathan of the Denver Broncos. I think he can come in and instantly make this defense tremendously better in the interior in terms of the linebacking core. The guy is a sideline football player. I think he would come in and infuse our defense with a lot of athleticism. And that's something that we need on the defensive side of the football. So I would love to see the Redskins go after a guy like that in free agency. Let's see what you guys are talking about. And you got to excuse me for not having the comment section up. I'll get all that stuff straight the next time I do this. So Mr. DCV 215 says the Redskins need a center, blocking tight end, young wide receiver. Brett is a number 3 wide receiver, not a real number 2. I don't even know if he's a consistent 3 option. I think that the draft pick last year of Jamison Crowder, I think he is fixed and entrenched as the number 3 receiver on this football team as the slot. And I don't think he's going anywhere. If Ryan Grant is going to be on this roster yet again next season, it's going to be as a 4th or 5th option. I don't think he's the guy that they trust on the field. I know I don't trust him. Not enough to put him out on the field and expect him to make plays. I just saw a lot of inconsistencies from him last year. I definitely think center is something that we need to address. And speaking of which, I talked about the Redskins and some guys that I want to target in free agency. I'll tell you that I have 10 free agents that I would love the Redskins to consider in free agency now. 3 or 4 of them, they're pipe dreams. There's no way the Redskins are going to target these guys because they're going to cost so much money and command so much attention on the free agent market. If it was the old Redskins with Vinny Serrato and company in charge, we'd go after some of those guys. But that's not how we do business anymore. We're not going to be throwing 12 and 13 million per at guys that are going to command that kind of money on the free agent market. But I'll say this. Looking at the running back position, I'd love to take a run at Ronnie Hillman, Denver Broncos running back, or even Lamar Miller, Miami Dolphins running back. These are 2 guys that I think have a little bit of speed and bring a little bit something different to the table that we lack right now. I like Chris Thompson, but he's always hurt. He's never healthy, and I think that's a position that we could definitely use an upgrade at, is at the running back position. And to be honest with you, I think the Redskins are going to try to address that through the draft and not necessarily through free agency. But DCB 215 brought up center. And it's funny that you brought that position up because I actually have a couple of centers on my list that I feel like the Redskins should target. Alex Mack just voided the final 3 years of his deal in Cleveland. Now, the one thing about him, he's 30 years old. Scott McLuhan is a stickler for not bringing in guys that are 30 years old or older, as they are on the wrong side of 30. He wants guys that are younger that can come in and still be in the prime of their career. I don't think that fits Alex Mack at this point, but I still think he's got some good football left. And I don't know if the Redskins will try to go out and get Alex Mack, but that's a guy potentially that I think the Redskins should sniff around. But Stefan Wisniewski was a guy that last year, coming off of an injury, the Redskins were very interested in. They actually had an interview lined up with Stefan Wisniewski, and he went to Jacksonville first, ended up signing with them, and never came to Washington. So now he's a free agent yet again, and I'm not sure if maybe the Redskins are still interested in him, but he's 26 years old, and I think he's the guy that can come in and definitely help this Redskins football team. So I really think that that's a guy that they can target. And again, with Josh Reeves leaving, you want a guy that's got versatility that can play guard and center. We're going to need a guy to come in and really fill that void. Mr. DCB 215 says, I would hate to see K-Rod leave. He's one of our athletic draft picks. Somebody will get a steal if they sign him. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. I just, you know what's crazy to me, DCB, is that whole situation with K-Rob last year just went south so fast. He got injured. The Redskins wanted him to come back a little bit sooner than he was ready to. And maybe Keenan said to himself, hey, I'm a free agent next year. I don't want to put bad film on tape, and I don't want to be out here playing at less than 100%. Redskins thought he should be able to play injured. He wasn't willing to do so. Next thing you know, Mason Foster is in there doing some work, and so is Will Compton. Then, you know, all of a sudden, Perry Riley Jr., who couldn't do anything right, PRJ is in there playing good ball, and K-Rob can't get back on the field. And then when he is healthy, now he's a special teamer, and the guy that's only in on nickel and dime situations. So that situation just went south quickly, and I think he fell out of favor in DC. And I agree with you. He's athletic. Going into the 2015 season, to me, if you ask me who's the one guy that I thought could be a breakout star in 2015, outside of Vitamin B, I would have told you K-Rob without hesitation. And to think that he's not going to be on the roster next year, it's a little frustrating. And I agree with you. Wherever he goes, if he goes to a defense with a coordinator that is able to utilize his skill set, he's a phenomenal athlete, and he's going to help somebody defensively. It'd be a shame to see him go out and do that somewhere else when we're the ones that groomed him into the player that he is right now. That's the way it is right now with K-Rob. So I also looked at a couple of guards that I felt like could come in, because again, with Josh Reed is on his way out potentially, the Redskins need to address the interior of the offensive line a little bit, because even though we like some of the pieces that we have, we still don't really know if we can trust the interior of our offensive line yet or not. I think everybody feels like center needs to be upgraded. The guard position, we lost our starter last year at the beginning of the season. In the running game, I thought coincidentally, and I don't know if there was a direct correlation or not, when Sean Laval went down against the Giants, the running game went down with him. And you can say what you want, but the running game was never the same after he got injured. And Spencer Long came in, and I thought he did an admirable job, but I didn't think he was great. But again, that was his first time really getting his feet wet, so I don't want to just say, oh, he can't do it. He's a young guy. With more time, maybe he'll be better, but still think we need to go out and get someone. Maybe they do it through the draft. And keep in mind, we also drafted Ari Kwanjo last year out of Alabama. If he's coming along nicely, then there's no need to address the guard position. We'll see what happens and how they feel with that. But there are a couple of guys on this list that I would love to have the Redskins sniff around, but they're going to cost too much money. Like a guy like Khalid Assembly out of Baltimore, he's going to command $8-9 million probably per year. No, the Redskins aren't paying that kind of money for a guard. So, you know, Sam Needles just was released by the Jacksonville Jaguars today. Again, another guy that instantly comes in, can start. He's 29 years old. Right around that area where, you know, Tom McClure starts to get a little uncomfortable, but Zane Beatles is a guy that can come in, play guard and center. He'd be a great fit on his team, but is he the starter? I don't know with what we have going on our offensive line. So a lot of questions for the Redskins. This offseason. So it'll be interesting to see if the Redskins are able to address some of those needs. I'll go back to a couple of you guys' questions that you asked earlier and see if I can knock some of these questions out and see if see what we got going on here. I got a question for you guys too. While we were talking about the different free agents, and let's talk about a guy that didn't play for us last year, but the word out of camp was that this guy was a difference maker. everyone was ranting and raving about his athleticism and his explosiveness. I've seen it. I watched him in New Orleans, and I saw the guy bagging quarterbacks. I know what he's about. But Junior Galette had a lot of people salivating at the prospects of him being on one side and Kerrigan being on the other. He gets injured, tears the ACL, or his Achilles, I should say, and wasn't able to play. He signed a one-year deal last year. He was still making money from New Orleans, so that the money wasn't really the important thing last year. It was just about getting on the field and showcasing his talents so that he could get a big deal the following year when he didn't need to play. Junior Galette wants a one-year prove-it deal. He wants a one-year contract to allow him to go out on the field, ball out, and then parlay that into a big deal the following year. Sounds great, right? Redskins want to sign him to a multi-year deal. Spread that money out over a few years and try to get a bargain out of this guy. He's like, no. I want a 1 year. This is the kicker. Redskins probably wouldn't mind paying him a 1 year, $4.5 million prove-it contract. But he wants, I'm hearing, around $7 million for one season. I don't know if the Redskins are going to do that or not. And that's an interesting situation. And DCB says, a torn Achilles. Let's see. Says a torn Achilles. Let's see if I can pull it up. Torn Achilles, and you lose explosiveness. I agree again. Normally, you don't get that explosiveness back until a year after you fully healed. So I don't know if he's going to come back. I saw a video that he posted the other day of him doing a bunch of agility drills. And so, I mean, it's good to see him moving around and he's feeling good and all of that stuff. But I don't know if I buy that. It will be interesting to see how he returns from that, said Mr. DCB 215. I agree with you. I think the sky's the limit for this guy when he's focused. And he's got a Redskin tat. I don't know if you guys saw that, but he actually got the Redskin logo tattooed on his arm. You can't leave after you do that, man. So I'm thinking that he's going to be back. He fired his agent because his agent wanted him to seek employment elsewhere, and he wasn't having any of it. He wants to come back to Washington. We want him back. They got to make the number work, though. And, man, $7 million for 1 year for a guy coming off of an Achilles surgery when explosiveness is supposed to be his biggest asset. Like DCB said, tough to expect him to come back and be the same guy he was before the Achilles injury in year one. Be interesting to see what the Redskins do with that situation because we need a pass rusher. Let's face it. We need an edge pass rusher. Preston Smith, P. Boogie got off at the end of the season, but let's not fool ourselves. I don't know if he can do that consistently or not. And Ryan Kerrigan, was he dealing with injuries or not last year? I'm not sure about that. We all know he had off-season surgery to clean up some things in his knee, and maybe he was never the same. But at the end of the day, I've always said that I thought Ryan Kerrigan was a B-level pass rusher. He's not an A pass rusher in this league. He's somebody's Robin. We need a Batman. Ryan Kerrigan will be the perfect Robin to somebody's Batman. We just need a Batman on our team. And we're hoping Galette is back. But we got to get him back on the football team first in order to find out. So we'll see. So Julian Esquera says, I was so excited to see Julian Galette in the burgundy and gold. I think he signs with the Skins for a multi-year deal, maybe 3 years, $42 million. I don't know if you're gonna be able to get him to sign that deal. And actually, that's a lot of money. You're talking about 14 per. And I think the Redskins are looking more along the lines of 3 years, $28 million or something along those lines, not 42. And again, Junior Galette wants to bet on himself. I don't think he's in any hurry to sign a long-term deal. I think he's more interested in a one-year prove-it deal, going out, getting 12 and a half sacks, and then turning around and saying, all right, now you can pay me a 5-year, $87 million deal with $27 million guaranteed. I think that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to parlay a good season into a big multi-year contract. I don't think he wants to sign that right now. So that's the dilemma that we face with Junior Galette. Because obviously, he's a guy that can come in and change the game defensively. We don't get enough pressure on the quarterback. And we've been singing that song since the Brian Racco days. We don't get enough pressure on the quarterback. We don't get it consistently enough. If we can do that, I think the secondary is going to be a lot better next year. Vitamin B is going to be a year better. D'Angelo Hall, I think, is going to make that transition to safety. Speaking of safeties, I got a couple of guys in free agency, and I want to ask you guys' opinion on this. We need safety help. And I think DeSean Jackson's got the 6th highest cap number on the team. He's either going to have to restructure that or they're going to cut him. And even when he's on the field, he's okay. He's not a difference maker. We need some difference makers in the secondary. Let's face it. And I got a couple of guys that I would love the Redskins to take a run at. And I want you guys' opinion on this. DeSean Jackson doesn't look like he's going back to Cleveland. He's 25 years old, in the prime of his career, has played some outstanding football in Cleveland. Been a little banged up, especially last season. But when the guy's healthy, and he's been healthy for the most part of his career, he is a menace in the secondary. I love the Redskins to at least take the sniff at DeSean Jackson. Young guy, prime of his career. Why not? George Iloka, Cincinnati Bengals safety. I wanted this guy out of Boise State. He's a big, long, physical safety at 6'2", 6'3". I wanted this guy out of Boise. Wanted the Redskins to draft him when he came out of the draft, 4 years ago or so. The Redskins did it. Went to Cincinnati. Has had a solid career thus far. I love the Redskins. 25 years old. Take a run at this guy. See if you can't upgrade the safety position. Those are two guys that really interest me at the safety position. What do you guys think about that? Toss a couple of other names out there of guys that I think the Redskins should target in free agency. And let's see. I don't know if there's any other guys that really interest me. Of course, Malik Jackson. We're not going to be able to afford Malik Jackson. I would love to have that kind of guy. And I think that's what the Redskins need to address via the draft. We'll talk about the draft here in a second and what the Redskins need to target in the draft. But I actually wrote down on my sheet free agency needs for the Redskins: defensive line, edge rusher, running back, cornerback, safety, inside linebacker, tight end. Tight end is a very curious position because you got Jay coming back off of his monstrous season. And he's supposed to get paid next year. So that's a deal that we're going to have to do here shortly. Then, remember, Niles Paul coming off the injury. Logan Paulson coming off the injury. He's a free agent. The Redskins want him back. We don't have a blocking tight end currently on the roster right now. And then Derek Carrier, who I thought was doing a really good job, and I wanted to see more of Derek Carrier, tears his ACL late in the season against Chicago. If he's able to get healthy, and I'm assuming that he won't be ready to start the season next year, do the Redskins have an injury settlement with him and get rid of him, or do they hold on to him? I like Carrier a lot. I'd love to see more of Derek Carrier. We'll see what the Redskins do with the tight end position. Inside linebacker, I just told you the Redskins have 3 free agents at inside linebacker. They're going to have to do something there. Resign 2 of the 3, and still probably need to go into the draft or in free agency. And I think free agency that's one of those positions in free agency I think they can address. Whether it's Brandon Marshall of the Broncos or Dan Trevathan of the Broncos, I think you can address inside linebacker and not have to worry about that in the draft. We drafted Martrell Spate last year, but I just don't think he's the guy that can come in and help us right now. Safety. I told you the 2 safeties that I would love the Redskins to target. Running back, I don't think you would go after running back in free agency unless I like Ronnie Hillman. I told you that already. I like the running back out of Miami, Lamar Miller. I think those guys add an element to our backfield that we lack right now, and that's that home run threat. Love to see one of those guys get an opportunity. But if you're talking draft with the Redskins, defensive line, cornerback, safety, wide receiver, we'll talk about that in a second. Quarterback, running back, guard, center, combo player, I think is something that we need to address as well. We drafted Austin Ryder in the 7th round last year. Don't know what his development looks like either. Along with Ari Quanjo, don't know what his development looks like, how they feel about him. But we may have some depth there that we may be comfortable with, which will allow us to not address that in free agency nor the draft. We'll see. But defensive line, to me, we need a difference maker. We need a guy that can create havoc along the defensive line, which will free up the edge pass rushers and give them an opportunity to win one-on-one matchups. Ryan Kerrigan got chipped a lot last year because there wasn't a guy that you had to worry about. Hatcher was always broken up, and when he was hurt, he was inefficient. You got other guys that Chris Baker, I thought he had a phenomenal season. If we can get that out of Dake every year, for the next 2 or 3 years, and get someone else along that defensive line to be a little bit more solid in the run game as well as a pass rushing threat along that defensive line, we can have a shot defensively to be much better. Cornerback, Will Blackman is not going to be back. I think we all want to see more of Dunbar. I thought he played phenomenally late in the season. He's a long guy, like 6'2". Those kind of athletic corners don't grow on trees. He's athletic, he's long. I want to see more Dunbar. If he continues to progress in the offseason across from vitamin B, Cully's going to be a while before he comes back. And the question, I question you, do we cut Cully? He's got the fourth highest salary, tied with DeSean Jackson at $9.25 million this season. Redskins have an out clause that if he got suspended for some of his transgressions when he was in San Francisco, if he got suspended for that, then they could get out of his deal and really save themselves a lot of money. Well, he got suspended for a game, and the Redskins can now get out of that deal and recoup a lot of that money if they like. So that's an interesting question. I don't think they're going to cut him. I don't see it happening, but that's something to think about. But I think we do need some more help in the secondary. I'd love the Redskins to address safety in the draft. There are a number of guys that I watched at the combine, and I just said to myself, this is amazing. There are so many talented football players in this draft class coming up that I really think can help us. I'd love to see the Redskins address that via the draft. So let's see. Got a couple of comments. A lot of people want Charles Johnson on the Redskins. Way too much money. His productivity has dropped. I don't think Charles Johnson fits in our scheme. We play a base 3-4 defense, and we're in nickel a lot. So even though we play a 3-4, you're going to have 4 down linemen a lot of times. But I'm like you. I don't think that Charles Johnson is a really good fit. I don't think he's a guy that comes in and can help us. And he's at the tail end of his career. Remember, I talked about this with McLaurin. He looked like 30-somethings. And I think Charles Johnson is right around 30, maybe a little bit over. Either way, he's on the wrong side of 30. I don't see him coming to Washington. Mr. DCB 215 says, what do you think about D-Hall at free safety and the development of Quentin Dunbar as a cornerback? I'm excited about those two next year. And let's jump into this comment because I just kind of touched on that. And I feel the same way you do as far as those guys are concerned. He said, I watched a film on Dunbar. I think this kid will be a solid. Can't read the rest of that one yet. I love Quentin Dunbar. And I think, again, with his size and his length, you can't teach those things. He's got speed, the X receiver. He can catch a football. We saw the big play he made against the Giants in the end zone, picking up Eli Manning. I can't wait to see this kid develop. And I'd love to see him get an opportunity to start next year across from vitamin B, with D-Hall going to free safety, and Cully being out for the probably first 6-7 games of the season, putting him on the public list probably to start the season. I think Quentin Dunbar is going to get an opportunity to start, and with a whole offseason of nothing but cornerback work for him, I think that could be huge in his development. We could see a monumental leap from him. I'd love it. As far as D Hall is concerned, at free safety, I want to see more instincts out of him, and hard to ask a guy for instincts when he hasn't played that position before and he was learning it on the fly, essentially. I think he'd be much better at free safety next year. I was surprised at his physicality. D Hall was hitting folks. He was throwing his body around. I didn't expect that from him, to see him sacrificing his body. Now I want to see him taking better angles to the football. Remember, he was coming off a double Achilles surgery, 2 Achilles surgeries on the same leg. Now, he's a year removed from that. I think he'll get a little bit more of that explosiveness back. I want to see him make some plays on the football. That's what I want to see from D-Hall. Take that next step, take proper angles, and make plays on the football. That's what I want to see from him in the secondary. Let's see. Dom Espo says, I'd like a corner to play opposite of Vitamin B. Sean Smith or Prince Amukamara. I don't like Prince Amukamara. Sean Smith, I had a crush on him last time he was a free agent when he was coming out of Miami. Now that he's, what is he? He's probably got to be around 30 years old now. Coming out of KC, he actually had a really good season for the Chiefs last year. I'm not a fan of Sean Smith anymore. I wanted him the first time around when he was coming out of Miami. After that first deal, this is going to be his 3rd contract. I'll pass on Sean Smith. I'd much rather take my chances with Quentin Dunbar or going and getting a young guy in the draft and developing him versus getting Sean Smith and having him come out there and play. I'm not a Sean Smith guy. Let's see what else. I think Dom had another comment. Golston sucks. Any of those guys you mentioned would be an instant upgrade for sure. Golston was okay. He was solid, but he wasn't a difference maker. I'm looking for a difference maker. We don't have enough of those guys on defense. We need more difference makers in Washington, and that's what I'm looking for the Redskins to do this offseason. Whether it's via free agency or the draft, I could care less. We need more playmakers. We need more speed defensively. We need more difference makers defensively. DeSean Jackson is not a difference maker. I agree with you there. I don't think he was terrible last year. He just wasn't great. He was solid. We need guys to play above and beyond the call of duty. I think he just does his job, and we need guys to do a little bit more than just doing their job. See if we got any more comments. Keep them coming, guys. I love it. Okay, let's see if we got anything going on Twitter. Yep, got another one on Twitter. JB, at Cold Beer for Life, asks, everyone has us taking rankings at 21 in the draft. Thoughts? I look at Sheldon Rankins, and I see him as more of a 3-tech. I'm not sure if he can play the 5-tech, which is what we would ask him to play. He's not a nose tackle. He's a quick defensive lineman that I think we might be able to slide over the 5-tech and ask him to be the defensive end. I think he's more suited for a 4-3 defense as a 3-tech. So I don't know if Sheldon Rankins would fit our defensive scheme as well. But again, like I said earlier, we play in a lot of nickel because it's a passing league. A lot of times we're in a 4-man front. So he would be able to shine. And a lot of people see him being like an Aaron Donald type. And so if he's that disruptive as a defensive lineman, I'm all for it. I told you, I want more playmakers. I want more disruptive football players, especially up front. And if Sheldon Rankin is that, and that's what a lot of people feel like he could be, another AD, if he can be an Aaron Donald type of football player, sign me up right now. That's how I feel about that, JD. Beautiful. So, let's see. Got another comment coming in. Keep them coming, guys. Tyson Jarrett was solid as a rookie. And that comes from Mr. DCB. He's still dealing with that stinger. Remember that stinger that he suffered at the end of the season against Dallas? Jay Gruden said he still hasn't fully recovered from that. So I just want to hear him being healthy. He's got a lot of time to recover, but you can look, those stinger situations really tricky. Remember, that's what got Keenan Robinson on the shelf during the regular season. Was he got a stinger, and the same thing happened to Corey Lichtensteiger. You just never know when you're going to get feeling back in your arm and be able to use it to have full strength. That's what kept Corey Lichtensteiger on the shelf for so long. That's what kept Keenan Robinson on the shelf for so long. So before we talk about how good Kaishan Jarrett was last year, we got to make sure he's healthy. But yes, Kaishan was definitely a pleasant surprise. I did not expect what we got out of Kaishan Jarrett. I believe he was a 5th or a 6th round pick. I want to say he was a 6th round pick. Had no idea we were going to get what we did out of him. And he played some slot. He played safety. He was all over the field for us, man. I just thought we got a steal in getting Kaishan Jarrett when we did last year in the draft. Okay, Sergio just chimed in on Twitter. Let's see what Sergio's got to say. What if we have our center already in Spencer Long and we put Ari Kwanjo in at guard? Jay says he's a lot better. Look, I want to see Ari Kwanjo get some run, man. I want to see these young boys get a chance to play. And Spencer Long, like you just said, he actually played center at Nebraska. So he has some versatility. I'd love to see Spencer Long get a shot at center and give somebody else a chance to guard, whether it's Sean Laval coming back off injury or Ari Kwanjo at guard. I want to see some more beef. I want to see some more big guys get a chance. And Sean Laval is a much bigger football player. Ari Kwanjo is monstrous. I want to see some big guys, some more girth. You want to tell you what? I'm trying to think of the tackle that came in when Trent went down last year. Big guy, Ty Nesky. I'll tell you what, he looks like he can play some guard too, man. I want to see them shuffle some things up on the interior of the offensive line. Let's see, I got some more Twitter comments. Sergio chiming in again. Let's see what Sergio has to say. And JB said something else. Let's see what Sergio's talking about first. Can Preston Smith play DN for Hatcher? That's a good question. If the Redskins ask Preston Smith to put on a little bit more weight, I think he could. He did it at Mississippi State when he was there, and he was a hell of a player along their defensive line, and that was part of the reason Scott McCloughan drafted him, was because of the versatility and his ability to be able to kick inside and play some 3-tech if need be, and play outside as a defensive end. So he offers some versatility. We'll see what the Redskins decide to do with him, because I personally don't want Hatcher back, but the Redskins, they want Hatcher back, and I heard Jay Gruber say he ran into Hatcher at a restaurant, and that Hatcher is leaning towards playing, and his body feels better, and yeah, he doesn't want to turn down $8 million. He's like the 3rd or 4th highest cap number on the team if he comes back. 5th highest cap number, something in there. So yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money on the table. He wants to come back. I would love for the Redskins to just say, nah, we don't want you back, but we'll see. He's always injured. He's always banged up. When he's healthy, he's effective. He's a disruptor. But he's not healthy. He's healthy for like 4 games out of 16 all season long. Let's see. JB asked something. JB, at Cold Beer for Life, asked, remember when everyone said that Randy Gregory would be the steal of the draft? I think we got that in Pete Boogie. We'll see. Look, he came on strong at the end of the year. Remember, he had a tear at the end where he ended up with 8.5 sacks on the season last year. And literally, 5 of those sacks came in the last 4 weeks of the season. And he even bagged Aaron Rodgers. Remember, he was the only sack we had in that playoff game. Got the safety on Aaron Rodgers. He came on strong at the end of the year. I'd love to see what the Redskins do with him. If they tell him, look, you're going to be an edge pass rusher, I want to see him get a little bit leaner and concentrate on that. If they say, hey, bulk up, get bigger, you're going to be our new 5-tech, do that. I just want to see them utilize him because I think he's a talented football player. Let's see what we got. Okay, got some more Twitter. Keep them coming, guys. Sergio asks, or says, should we let Scott find our starting middle linebacker in the draft like he did with Bobby Wagner and Navarro Bowman? I would love for him to find a guy like that in the draft. I don't know if you're going to find one of those guys just lying around. Those are some talented football players that you just mentioned. I think LeVar Bowman was actually a third-round pick out of Penn State, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Wagner might have been a second-round pick, if I'm not mistaken, second or third. But I would love for him to find a middle linebacker in the draft. I think there's some guys that are talented coming out that can do some things at middle linebacker that are some athletes. I just want to get faster. That's my biggest thing. I've seen guys that are football players that can help. But I want athletes. We're not fast enough on defense. That's my biggest pet peeve. And if he can get a guy like LeVar Bowman or Bobby Wagner, both of those guys are athletically gifted. We need one of those type of players. And that's why I don't think they're sold necessarily on Will Compton and Mason Foster being starters. You can have maybe one of those guys, and I like Will Compton. I don't think you can have both of those guys, because neither one of those guys are supremely gifted athletes. And so I think you need to upgrade the middle linebacker position. I don't know if they're going to address it through the draft or through free agency. I told you, I'd love for them to go out and get Danny Trevathan out of Denver and bring him in and plug him in the middle of our defense. It would be an upgrade instantly if you get a guy that's an athlete like Danny Trevathan and stick him in the middle of our defense. Sergio says, love what they did with Cousins. Let him earn the money. Hey, look, a lot of people feel the same way that you do with the Kirk Cousins situation. I don't have a problem with that. I would love him to get a long-term deal, but I think Kirk is more than comfortable playing for $20 million next year. And he's going to bet on himself. And if everybody stays healthy, I don't see why Kirk won't do what he did again last year, do it again this season. I just don't. If the weapons are there, the offensive line is intact. He didn't have a running game last year. I can't imagine the running game being as bad as it was last season. I just can't. So in my mind, he's got to have a running game that's better. And if he has a running game that's capable, I think his numbers are going to be even better. He's going to perform even better next season with the whole offseason to work with guys. Remember, he didn't get first-team reps last year. He didn't get to work with these guys intimately last year. He wasn't the guy going into the season last year. It only happened because Robert went down with the injury in the preseason against the Lions. He's going to get an offseason to be the guy. I think Kirk is going to take another monumental leap. He's going to ascend, and next year we're going to have to break the bank to pay him, but I think they'll be more comfortable paying Kirk coming off of his second season in a row of top-notch football. That's how I feel about the Kirk Cousins situation. Let's see. Sergio says, Ryan Grant is not a starter. Skins still need a number one wide receiver. Look, let's talk about the receiver position for a second. Look, Pierre Garçon and DeSean Jackson. DeSean Jackson's on the last year of his deal. Pierre is in the last year of his deal where he's going to get money. We can get out of the Pierre Garçon business after this season if we want to. Technically, we can get out of it this year, but we would still owe him a substantial amount of money. Don't know if the Redskins want to eat as much money as they would have to. But next year, they could get out with little to no cap hit. So what I'm basically saying to you is that next year, you can have a situation where there's no Pierre Garçon or DeSean Jackson. If that's the case, you definitely need to have a guy that's waiting in the wings, ready to take over. We don't have that right now. I've been clamoring for the Redskins to get a big wide receiver for at least a decade. We haven't had a big 6'3", 6'4" receiver, and Leonard Hankerson doesn't count, so don't throw Hank Time in there because he doesn't count. I'm talking about a guy that can go up and get the football and be a red zone threat. We haven't had that in DC since Michael Westbrook, okay? It's been that long since we've had a guy that can go up and get the football. And Rod Gardner, 50-50 doesn't count either, so don't throw him in there either. We need a big guy. And I'd love to see the Redskins attack that position. But this draft, I'm going to tell you right now, not a deep draft for receivers. Especially if you're looking for a big guy, and especially if you're looking for a number one. Unless you're trying to get that early in the draft, I'd love the Redskins to take a guy like Josh Doctson. I would love it. I just don't see it happen. JB at Cold Beer for Life says, who do you want returning kickoffs and punts? I think Ross and Crowder should. No more D-Jacks back there. LOL. I like Rashard Ross. I don't really know who I want returning kickoffs. I think Ross runs laterally too much. I want to see him get up the field. The best kick returners in the league are fearless. They aren't afraid to get hit. I feel like Rashard Ross wants to bounce everything to the outside and use his speed. That's not how you make yards in this league. You make yards by going north and south, not east and west. I'd love to see a guy get back there and just not give a damn. Just run and see what he can get. As far as punts are concerned, I want Crowder back there. I think Crowder will be more comfortable in year 2 of doing it, and he'll get better. I think he can be an explosive punt returner. I think he just needs more opportunities. I'd like to see him stay back there. See if we got anything on YouTube. Okay, so Mr. DCB says Sheldon Rankins would fit in our running gap system. I think you're right about that, and I feel like his quickness would allow him to really come in and help us right away, and I wouldn't have a problem with that pick. My only question with him is he's a smaller defensive tackle. Is he a 3-down football player? That's the only question that I would have. As a pass rusher, I don't doubt his talents. But I don't know if he can stand up at the point of attack in the run game well enough. I'd have to watch more tape on him before I could make an assessment. I know what he is as a pass rusher. I need to see more from him stopping and running. So I would have to watch more tape before I would be able to tell you if I felt like he could fit our system wholeheartedly. Because I want a 3-down player. If you drafted a guy in the first round, he needs to be a 3-down player. Everybody's got us projected to take one of the Alabama boys, whether it's Ashawn Robinson or Javon Reed. After watching the combine, even though they say Ashawn Robinson is the more explosive and dynamic one, the one that can get pressure on the quarterback, he takes plays off. I don't want the guy taking plays off. Javon Reed looked like the more impressive of the two if I had to pick one of those guys. But again, I just want the best player available at 21. If it's a defensive lineman, so be it. If it's a receiver, go after it. If it's a running back, knock yourself out. I just want the team to improve. Get the best player available. Dom Espo says, can Matt Jones be a future back? I have my doubts. He is a fumbler, which is why I want AM back because he protects the football. We're going to give Matt Jones each and every single opportunity to be the guy in Washington next year at the running back position. And they've already put him on notice. They already told him he's got to hold on to the ball. They told him he's got to prepare better. They said he's got to treat his body better. He's just got to be better. And he's already admitted that he wasn't prepared mentally for the grind of the NFL last year. And he's going to be better this year. Yeah, he's going to have to improve. And they already told him, you got to hold on to the ball or you can't play. And so we'll see what happens with Matt Jones. But I'm telling you right now, he's going to be the future back. They believe in him. And they think that he can be the answer at the running back position next year. We saw flashes from him last year. So it's not like he can't do this. We saw flashes. Now it's up to him to take that next step. Let's go back into the comment section. Yes, Matt Jones definitely needs to run behind his pads more. And that comes from Mr. DCB215. Absolutely. You're spot on there. And that's something else the coaching staff has hit on. When he runs high, he's ineffective. When he runs behind his pads, like he did against Chicago, the guy is a monster. And so that's something else. He needs more consistency, holding on to the ball, running behind his pads. He needs to be a more consistent runner. And so that's something else he has to work on, definitely. See what we got on Twitter. Sergio says, do you agree with Scott when he says that we should draft and mold the players ourselves or do we need to go into free agency? You use free agency to supplement your roster. What I mean by that is you don't look to build your football team through free agency. You look to help fill a few holes in free agency. The draft is where you build your football team. The draft is the DNA of any football organization. You want young football players, you want cheap football players to come in and be able to play. And if they play well enough, then you reward them by giving them a contract when it's time. But that's how you build a team, through the draft. Free agency is just there to supplement your roster and help you fill a couple of holes. And coming off of a division title, you need some veterans to come in and help. You can't have a whole bunch of young guys out there because they're not going to be able to come in and pick up where you left off from last year. You need some guys that have been in the league, that have been there, done that. So free agency is a good tool to use, but the draft is where it's at. Okay, JB at Cold Beer for Life says, I guess color rush uniforms are going to be mandatory here soon, Luke. All burgundy. Look, I miss those days when Joe Gibbs would let the guys wear whatever the hell they wanted to wear. The all burgundies were sweet. The all whites were sweet. I want one or the other. Give me something. I was an all white guy. I loved it. I love the all white. I love the all burgundy. So if we can get one of those going, sign me up. Again, I'm all for change. And so, our president isn't about change. He's gold pants, burgundy top, gold pants, white top. That's what he wants. So Bruce Allen, going to be hard to sell him on Color Rush. If everybody's doing the Color Rush this year, then he won't have a choice. But if they don't make him, he's not going to do it. Let's see. If we got anything else coming out of YouTube. No, not right now. Let's go back to Twitter. Sergio says he 10,000% agrees with Scott building in the draft. That's what you got to do. You got to build through the draft. That's how football teams are built. That's how they stay good. That's why the Packers are good every year. That's why the Patriots, even though the Patriots don't draft that well, they draft good enough. They don't draft superstars, but they find a way to find guys that can get the job done. And at the end of the day, that's how the rich stay rich, is by finding good football players through the draft and continuing. The good teams don't rebuild, they just reload. And the way you reload is via the draft. Let's see. So Sergio wants to know, do you think the Skins should come back to DC where they won their last Super Bowl, or stay in Landover? Dan Snyder wants to come back to DC, but right now legislation isn't having it. The whole name thing, it's a barrier. It's a convoluted situation. They'll figure it out though. Eventually, I don't get into all that stuff. So we'll see what they decide to do. Landover, back in DC. They should be back in DC. That's where they belong. But we'll see what they do. I don't really know what they will do and how they'll go about it. Randy the Random asks, what about Arian Foster? What about Arian Foster? Foster, Australian for beer. Now, seriously, Arian Foster, past his prime, he's always injured. His best days are behind him, and I don't think he has a lot left in the tank. And again, when you're talking about running backs, you want running backs with plenty of tread left on the tires. He doesn't have a lot of tread left on his tires. A lot of mileage on those tires already. You either go and get a running back via the draft, or you go get one of those young guys that I talked about earlier, Ronnie Hillman, or a guy like Lamar Miller from Miami, one of those younger backs. You don't want a guy with a lot of tread on the tires. Oh, this is an interesting question. We haven't talked about him all night. Mr. DCB215 says, thoughts on Trent Murphy? I think he should gain weight and put his hand in the dirt. I couldn't agree with you more, man. He's like a fish out of water at outside linebacker. That's just not, even though that's where he played at Stanford, he's not athletic enough to do it. He's not, I don't think he's disciplined enough. And maybe it's just because he's young, but I don't think he's athletically inclined to be what we need him to be out there. He definitely can't get pressure on the quarterback consistently. I think he'd be better served putting his hand in there. I totally agree with you there. I'd actually like to see him more so than Preston Smith put his hand in the dirt, because I actually think Preston Smith could be a viable edge rusher standing up in a two-point stance versus putting his hand in the dirt all the time. But again, we play so much nickel, so much dime, that you're going to have a four-man front a lot of times. And it'd be nice to see Trent Murphy be able to kick inside and maybe be able to use some quickness and be a guard or a center off the snap instead of trying to go against the tackle where he's overmatched. I'd love to see him gain some weight. We'll see what the Redskins do with him, because I think they realize that they can't keep trying Trent Murphy out there as a starting outside linebacker. It just doesn't work. And I think they realize that they need to figure out what the best situation for him is on this roster. I'm hoping it's, hey, gain some weight, stick your hand in the dirt, and be a five-tech. Or, be able to come in sub packages and be able to rush as an interior line when we try to put, four guys that can get to the quarterback on the field at once. Let's see. Let's go back to Twitter. What do you think about Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless talking bad about Kirk Cousins? Sergio asked. I don't pay attention to those clowns. I hate First Take. I don't watch ESPN very much. Look, they do it for ratings. Debates, they sell. And so, first of all, Skip Bayless is a Dallas guy. He's been covering the Cowboys for over 20 years. He's from that area. Of course, he's going to rip Kirk Cousins. Stephen A. Smith, he's a basketball guy. Stick to basketball. Stick to what you know. Those guys are clowns. Let's see. JB at Cold Beer for Life says, I think we should keep Pierre Thomas. I like the way he plays. Very good attention to football. Yeah, all of that is fine, but his age he's not coming back here. I don't think Pierre Thomas is going to be back. That was one of those situations where late in the season, you needed a guy to come in and step in right away as a veteran and be able to help. He filled that void magnificently, but at the end of the day, younger, faster, stronger, cheaper, those are always the options. You can do that via the draft and maybe even free agency. If you're talking younger and faster, maybe not cheaper in free agency, but you definitely get younger, faster, and maybe even stronger. I love Pierre Thomas. I've said this since he was a Saint, one of the most underrated backs in the league, but at the end of the day, he's still, an older, aging back. I don't see him coming back next season. Let's see. Sergio asked, do you see a safety getting drafted in the first round? All mock drafts I've seen, no safeties are picked. I don't see the Redskins drafting a safety in the first round. And to be honest with you, all of the safeties worth drafting the first round, using the first round pick on, we haven't been able to see him yet. Von Bell is a guy. Carl Joseph is a guy that could potentially be a first-round safety. We haven't been able to see those guys. How did they clear the medical at the combine? I mean, there are a number of questions about those safeties. But at the end of the day, I don't think safety is a position you want to draft in the first round. There are other positions that will be available. I think you can circle back around and get a safety in the second, in the third, in the fourth round, and still get good value at that position, because I think the safety position is really deep this year. Unlike the last couple of years, I think safety is deep. A lot of athletes, a lot of guys that fits into different niches. You got some thumpers, like Miles Killebrew, to me, thumper. Carl Joseph, thumper, but he can also make plays on the football. You know, there are a number of guys. I'm intrigued by, there's a safety out of Boston College. His name escapes me. I got it right here on my pad, though. Let me see if I can track it down. Justin Simmons. I'm intrigued by Justin Simmons. And if Justin Simmons is around in the fourth round, I'd love the Redskins to take a shot at Justin Simmons. 6'2", 202-pound safety, can make plays on the football, athletic. I'd like to see the Redskins go after a guy like that with some size in that secondary. Let's see. We got anything else? Dom Espo wants to know who will be the third running back on the roster next year, because Chris Thompson and Matt Jones are locks. Would you be looking at a scat back or a power back? And do you find that guy in the draft or free agency? That's been a thing I've been talking about all night at the running back position. You go one or two ways with that. You can either say, all right, we want to address this in free agency so we don't have to send a draft pick on it, and go out and get a Ronnie Hillman or a Lamar Miller, or maybe they're looking for a bigger guy, a power back, you know, a Chris Ivory or one of those guys. Again, I'm not trying to get a guy that's got a lot of tread on the tires already, you know, worn down. You want young running backs. It's a very physically demanding position. The younger you are, the better they're suited to be able to come in and help you. I've seen a lot of backs in this draft class that can come in and fill a scat back role for us. I think Chris Thompson already has that role. I want more, a guy that's more capable if Matt Jones is struggling, and let's say he fumbles a couple of times. You want a guy that can come off the bench and tote the rock 12 to 15 times and not feel like he's going to break. And that's how they feel about Chris Thompson. They don't want Chris Thompson touching the football 15 times in any given game, because they feel like he's going to be exposed to some shots and he's going to get injured. They want him touching the football 5 to 7, maybe 9 times in a game maximum. They don't want him taking a bunch of hits. I want a guy that's got some speed but can still run between the tackles. I'd love for them to get a guy like that in the draft, personally. Let's see. Silas Red. I'm not a Silas Red guy. DCB, I'm not. I just, Silas Red to me is a regular running back. You can get him anywhere. Diamond does it, man. You can get one of those type of guys anywhere. I just not sold on Silas Red. That's a difference maker. I want difference makers. Let's see. We got some more Twitter action. People are saying we can take a quarterback later in the draft. Any particular ones you think would fit? I don't actually have my eyes on any particular quarterback. I will tell you that Brandon Allen out of Arkansas has impressed me throughout the process thus far. I mean, there are a number of quarterbacks, you know, that will be around. Dak Prescott will be around. Cody Kessler will be around. I don't know what the Redskins are looking for at the quarterback position, but I think they're going to draft a quarterback. I feel confident in saying that. Colt McCoy is a free agent. I don't know if Colt McCoy wants to come back. I think he feels slighted. I think he feels like he didn't get an opportunity to be a starter here, and he thought he was going to get that opportunity. So he may feel like, I'm going to take my services elsewhere. We'll see if anyone else around the league feels like Colt McCoy is a competent backup. If so, he may not be back. And if Colt McCoy doesn't come back, guess what? You don't have any other quarterbacks on the roster. So we're definitely drafting a quarterback. Now, the question is when and who. That I don't know. But there are some guys in the middle of the draft that are intriguing. And to me, the most intriguing of that group is Brandon Allen, quarterback out of Arkansas. We still have Duke Nacho on the roster. Do we keep him or pay him? I think he's a free agent next year. That's a good question. Yo, I really feel